Of business chat and property with Ajaz Ali, and today I'm actually joined by a special guest called James Rogers. Hi, James. How are you?
Hi, Ash. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for agreeing to be with us. So, in today's session, we're going to be talking about property. We're going to be talking about finance. We're going to be talking about James's journey as well. So, hopefully, he's here to inspire the listeners of Ramadan Radio. Now, I should say that for those that are listening, you can actually WhatsApp the studio and you can WhatsApp us on 07440 420 432. And if you've got any questions surrounding property, around business, or if you want to ask James a question, feel free to get in touch. So, James, thanks for coming online.
Thanks.
Just give you a bit of background about Ramadan Radio. It's predominantly a Asian community, and it's a community radio. And I thought it'd be great to get you on board, just so that you can share some of your wisdom with the Asian community. And I've said this previously, that lots of the Asian community, they love the thought of purchasing property, but they may not always know the best way of going around it. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So I grew up in Devon, in Exeter. Obviously, went through the schooling system. Didn't really sort of get on too well with it. Sort of from about the age of 14, I started attending on a part-time basis, I think we'll call it. And then, sort of when I officially left school, I went and got a job on a building site as an apprentice painter and decorator. And then I sort of went through the processes with that. With the site experience, retrained as a plumbing and heating engineer, sort of went into investing, and then now a business development manager for Prospero Finance. So a little bit about Prospero. We are a mortgage brokerage based in Swindon, but we cover sort of the whole of UK market. We provide financial solutions and facilities for investors and homeowners to purchase properties.
Okay, so you actually help with homeowners as well, so you don't
Yeah,
just do investments. Okay, so you're regulated then, I'm assuming,
yeah,
because
we
it.
deal with regulated and non-regulated, but I specifically deal with the investor side of the market, so the non-regulated.
Okay, so I suppose first question that I'll ask you: how's the market right now?
It's starting to ease. It's starting to become slightly more. Well, the lenders are now less obstructive as they were sort of last quarter of 22. Rates are starting to sort of come back down and ease and settle. We are starting to find that business is picking up. Uh, a lot more cases are now going through, and we're obviously leveraging our relationships with the major commercial lenders as strategic partners.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're finding that activity is picking up.
Yeah,
What do you reckon actually made the interest rates rise so rapidly?
well, we had they were sort of on the up all of last year, and then we had obviously the change of prime minister September. That at that point eradicated confidence in the market, and then it led to a sort of very steep peak in interest rate rise, lender confidence. So, like I say, lenders were being obstructive at that point. They were offering rates where it just wasn't really possible to do much business. There was still business being conducted, but it wasn't a great deal. Certainly on a buy to let or a single buy to let situation.
Okay, that's interesting. So do you reckon that as confidence, or would you say that the banks got nervous?
Yeah, I mean, it's their risk management of it. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of unknowns in the marketplace. Inflation, um, interest base rate. That doesn't necessarily dictate, obviously, our market, but it all sort of has a hand uh, in the situation, and it causes the lenders to sort of back off and become less confident in the marketplace at that time.
We've got to say though, James, to be fair, I don't know, how long have you been involved in property? Well, for the 22 years that I've been involved in property, a large part of that, I've only ever known low interest rates, but that isn't the norm.
No, historically it's not. And there are a lot of people that have built businesses off the back of these low interest rates, but then not all, but some have failed to sort of stress test their portfolios correctly, and understand that this cheap credit isn't going to be available forever, and they possibly haven't consolidated their portfolios, paid down a bit of debt, and then it's led to a situation where their terms are up and they're refinancing at a far higher rate on their loans than they were previously.
Yeah, no, it's true. And, if you have a look historically, if you go back really historically, some rates have gone right up to 15%, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose we've got to take that in context with
Yeah.
what was going on at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the fact that we're hovering between 4 and 5% now, even up to 6%, actually isn't too bad. It just appears that we've had to run the mill, and because some people have not been used to that, they have got used to the 0.5% of base going up to circa even minus base.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy, but we've enjoyed it because we've managed to enjoy that cash flow. And all of a sudden now people are feeling the pinch because the interest rate has gone up. And it's not only the interest rate, we've got it. I think it's come at a point where everything's going up. So it feels like we're being hit by everything at the same time.
Yeah, we are, unfortunately. It is pretty difficult out there at the moment for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, one of the office buildings that I've recently acquired, the electricity bill's gone from £800 near up to £3,000 a month. So it's absolute, and unfortunately, that all comes. It's unsustainable to increase the rent by that kind of level.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, that just takes a hit on the bottom line. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're seeing that in the HMO market as well. And for the listeners that don't know what a HMO is, it's a house in multiple occupation, or for all intents and purposes, a shared house.
Yeah.
So shared living accommodation for different households. And we are seeing upon valuations, the rent adjustment is the percentage of rent adjustment. Sorry, on the gross rental income is being adjusted to sort of 25 and 30% as a matter of course, rather than the sort of 15 or 20% that we were used to, purely because things like utility bill rise.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually, because I was going to ask about how lenders are perceiving it, how lenders are dealing with the increase in the costs, in terms of, let's say, as you said, the multi-let market or the HMO market. Now, where for those that may or may not be aware, when you rent out a property on a room-by-room basis and you're creating a multi-let, your rent that you charge may also include all the utilities such as council tax, water rates, electricity, gas, broadband. You may or may not provide a cleaner, but these are all costs associated with the activity of running a HMO. And then obviously the more costs that you increase, or the higher the costs are, the lower the cash flow is going to be. And that's what lots of landlords have been kind of up in arms, because if the interest rate is increasing, the utility costs are increasing. Now, straight away, let's just imagine that the mortgage has gone up by £200 or £300 in some scenarios, and then the utility bills have gone up by £200 or £300. If your cash flow was £1,000 previously, and now you're losing another 60% of that, it kind of makes some of the transactions unviable. So have you come across scenarios like that, James?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we at Prospero Finance, we do a lot of front end due diligence to highlight these potential flaws in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, there are still deals going on, there are still transactions, but we are finding that the more astute investor is sort of weathering the storm, where the less experienced maybe aren't doing so well, not through anything other than they are maybe sort of lacking in experience and don't quite understand the numbers correctly.
Yeah, and that's the key thing when you're getting involved in property. Property can be very forgiving and unforgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
if you do your figures right, and if there are some minor adjustments, you can actually factor those in. But if you get it completely wrong, it can absolutely destroy you. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where you haven't priced your build costs properly, um, as in they're too low, your end achievable value or your GDV, your gross development value, yeah, you're sort of in a situation where you've got a bit of a perfect storm. However, that would generally be picked up at sort of at valuation point. But it's an important point to understand that if you are on if you're doing a HMO conversion, then you will be on what is called a short-term facility or a bridging loan to enable you to sort of pull the property back to brick, do the refurbishment works, and then you will refinance onto a term product. So a term product is a mortgage product. Um, if you are using a different lender for that works, for that initial bridging loan, and the valuer goes out, has a look at it, and agrees with, for argument's sake, your sort of NGDV, but then the lender's valuer, who's going to offer you the term product, comes out and doesn't agree with it, you are in a little bit of a sticky situation. So you're either leaving too much money in, or or just leaving too much money in. But if it's important to choose a brokerage that understands your needs. So we will try where we can to put you on a short-term facility with a lender that will then exit you. So
So
then you've got continuity of value, and it's a lot safer situation. And also you're saving a bit on sort of fees and whatnot as well.
let's talk about a couple of the scenarios then, because obviously finance is a big part in property investing, and you guys obviously assist with that. So if someone wanted to get involved in property, what are the, let's call them the short fire hits of things that they require from your point of view? So, from your point of view, a client comes to you and says, I'm looking to buy a property. What are the kind of things that you're after?
I mean, I think it's probably better to start from the investor side of the fence. So from what they're looking at, and these strategies can seem very alluring. So HMOs or houses in multiple occupation, they can seem very cash flow heavy, and they can seem very enticing. But as a first time investor and a first time landlord, you may not be able to be able to, we may not be able to provide you with a loan facility or a lender that will do that for a first time landlord. So it's about pitching, sort of putting your stake in the ground where you can have the maximum effect. So I personally would start off with a very sort of simple buy to let. I would make my mistakes with that, because mistakes will be made if you've got no experience. It would then be far easier for us to provide the investor with an exit at that point than if they were doing something that's slightly more complicated. And it costs a lot less to do a single let as well. So you're sort of saving on those front end costs too.
Okay, so you always suggest someone starting out, in essence, start with the basics. Start with the
Yeah,
basics. Get a, let's say, two-bed terraced house.
yeah,
Make the mistakes. Understand what property investing is all about, and then
absolutely.
start to scale up at a scale which is, let's call it, sustainable.
Yeah, and it's all about being sustainable across your goals, making them achievable, and making your portfolio sustainable as well.
Okay. So in terms of, you know, we've talked about that side. Now let's talk about from the other side. So let's just, on average, if someone wanted to invest and they came to you and said, James, I'm looking to buy, what do you need? What, I suppose, because lots of people are unsure of that step. It's quite daunting speaking to a mortgage broker for the first time. So how does that look?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not as complicated as they would imagine, or as it would be portrayed. Now, there are a lot of lenders that don't need a sort of minimum income. There is a generally, well, it's sort of quite a popular setup where investor would start up a limited company. They would purchase that property through the limited company. As long as they're sort of employed on an average wage. Homeowner does help, but again, not necessary. And it's done on a case by case basis. So if
But you
anybody
know, when you
is,
talk about wage slips, is there an average? Do you need 3 or 6 months wage slips? Do you need what kind of?
yeah, I mean, if you're self-employed, obviously we're going to need sort of a further proof of income. But if you are in an employed role and you can show us that you are having a regular wage coming in, then it's sort of a fairly straightforward procedure.
Interesting that you mentioned self-employed, because there'll be lots of people listening that, let's not stereotype that they may be something like they might be driving around in a cab, or they might be, and they're a little bit unsure of that step, and this is kind of where it becomes a little bit tricky, doesn't it? And we always suggest that obviously you abide fully by the law, but there are some people that may not fully declare what they earn, and that's just a fact of life, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's obviously down to the individual, but we can only go on their declared income. So if they are earning a sort of a far higher amount than they are declaring, yeah, I wouldn't advise them to do that in the
Yeah,
first
no,
place.
I agree, but that none of that income can be considered for the purchase
No, absolutely
process.
not. It's undeclared. It doesn't go on their tax return, and that's what we'd need to see: tax returns, declared income. So if they are thinking of going into some sort of property investment, then it would be my reasonable advice that they would declare their income, as they should be doing anyway.
Just
And
I'm gonna probably throw a caveat in here now, mate, because it's rare that I get to speak to someone that actually does residential mortgage as well. So obviously there's going to be lots of people here who have got their own house or looking to buy their first house. Now, one question that I get quite often is that if they're unemployed and they're getting some form of state benefit, whether it be something like a job seekers allowance or universal credit, how does that work in the mortgage market nowadays, or does that do mortgage companies not like that?
I mean, I don't deal with that side of
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
the fence, so I can't really comment on that. But if anybody does have any questions surrounding that and regarding that, then I can absolutely put them in touch with somebody at the office that can deal with those
Yeah, no,
questions.
it'd just be interesting because I've always thought that if someone is not currently employed, but they've got some form of income, and let's face it, some people may be on a long-term benefit, and that could be considered. I don't know. Would it could be considered as sustainable income or not?
I would be doubtful that that would be
Yeah, no.
considered
It's just
a
something that I
reason.
thought I'd throw out there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a reasonable question, but like I said, I don't deal with that sort of side of it. And if there is any of the listeners that are in that situation, I'd be happy to sort of put them in touch with somebody at the office that can deal with that question.
So I'll tell you what then, James. We've got 5 minutes before we go into the first break because the show's broken up into two parts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your property journey? So how did James get started? So you already told us that school wasn't the best the best time for you. And to be fair, let's just dispel a myth whilst we're here. Education is not for everyone. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and it wasn't for me. I don't sort of have any formal educational qualifications. Like I said, I sort of went and trained as a plumbing and a painter and decorator, and then followed on with a plumbing and heating apprenticeship a few years later. So I had a lot of sort of hands-on experience, but not necessarily sort of GCSE and academic experience.
Okay. I myself, I was one of these people at school that they said that I had all the ability, but
Yeah,
I just couldn't apply it. Now,
no,
when we think about it now, we're in this world where we're labelled, and if you were to say, well, based on what they say nowadays, some people would label that I had ADHD,
yeah, same.
and
Um,
so it's just
but
it's crazy, but
I mean, when you've got something that is a large number of people sort of doing it like the schooling system, and it's set up a certain way, it's not going to appeal to everybody. And it didn't appeal to me, and obviously it didn't appeal to you either. And I had the same feedback as you did, but it didn't inspire me in any way, shape or form. And it was a sort of a waste of my time and a waste of the teacher's time, because it wasn't a positive experience for me. The social aspect of it was great, but the classroom, not so much.
Yeah, but there are two types of people in this world. There's the academic, and then I call the other one like the lesson of life.
So, yeah, I've had a few of those.
Yeah, the lesson of life. So I've kind of learned as I went along. So I'm more of a practical learner as opposed to an academic learner. So if you were to give me a book and say, read this and tell me how it's done, for me, when I look at that, all I see is just letters. Nothing goes in. Nothing goes in.
Yeah, nothing at all. Whereas if you put me in a situation, and obviously you're the same, where I'm doing it, then absolutely I'll take to it very quickly.
Yeah.
You put a textbook in front of me, and it's not a good situation.
It's just like my teacher used to say to me sometimes when we used to do these mock exams in school. I know we've gone completely off topic here, but they said, "Osh, what question were you reading?" Because what the question was and what I actually answered.
Yeah. I still get that now, unfortunately.
So I don't envy you answering all these questions on all these application forms. Oh, dear.
We've got a great admin team, so thankfully they take care of that.
Oh, dear me. So, yeah, James, so property investing has been good for you. It's been good, and it's also been bad for you. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly been, eventful at times, and not necessarily in a good way. I mean, my very first project that I did, and I suppose I'd probably better say why I wanted to get into property before I go into.
I suppose we should leave that until after the break. We've only got a minute before we go into the break. So I suppose.
Can't tell you about the first project within a minute. It's a bit of a roller coaster.
No, it's okay. Well, we'll touch base on that after the break. So, what lessons did you learn along the way? Or if you were to give some listeners just some quick fire tips as to what you would not do again.
I mean, the best bit of advice I got was to go to networking events at that time. I wouldn't stay away from them for as many years as I did do. I've learned so much, and I've made so many decent contacts through various forms of networking events that I would absolutely suggest to anybody listening to go along. It's a very welcoming environment, and it's certainly not how I envisaged that they would be, full of sort of educated people and academically educated people that wouldn't assist somebody like myself. It was the exact opposite. They were very encouraging, very helpful, and I wouldn't stay away from them. I would go.
That'd be interesting, because that would be a good point to start from the next session.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to talk about networking, because networking, I remember my first networking event, and I found it quite daunting.
Oh, it is.
But there are tricks and tips, but we'll touch on that just after the break. So again, guys, we'll see you in a few minutes.
When you need to send money abroad, AK Money can transfer funds quickly and securely to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, to anywhere in the world. Whether you're sending to family, for business, or for charity during this holy month of Ramadan, download the AK Money app and transfer from the palm of your hand, whilst enjoying competitive rates, zero fees, and an outstanding service. To chat with our support team in English, Urdu, or Punjabi, call 02031 502253 or click on akmoney.co.uk. Visit the new AK Windows head office showroom. It's where you can view their quality and affordable double-glazed windows, doors, roof lanterns and composite and bifolding doors in all colours, finishes and styles. Also for door lock and glass repairs too. For both trade and DIY, AK Windows have over 30 years experience in manufacturing and installing. So to arrange your free quotation, call 01902 421 500, click on akwindows.co.uk or visit at Economic House, Salisbury Street, Wolverhampton, WV3 0BG.
The death of a loved one is a very emotional and challenging time for the family members of the deceased. Al Mu'min Funeral Services have been supporting families across the UK since 2005. Their professional, experienced and quality service ensures the whole process from release from hospital to burial is taken care of respectfully and efficiently. They also specialise in worldwide repatriations, assisting to take loved ones to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Iraq or anywhere worldwide. almu'minfunerals.co.uk, your trusted funeral service.
Eurofit Auto Centres, the West Midlands' leading independent auto centre, celebrating 18 years of service. All services, MOT and repairs, with a free collection and drop-off service within Wolverhampton. Book online today at eurofitautocentres.co.uk or call us on 01902 40 40 45 and we'll direct you to your nearest branch. The experts making vehicle repairs simple. Is your home protected from the unexpected? It can be with Home Cover Plan, Wolverhampton's fastest growing home emergency cover from as little as $14.50 a month. That's right, for just $14.50 a month, Home Cover Plan will protect your boiler, radiators, electrics, plumbing and any other home emergencies. With no catches, no call-out charges and no excess charges plus a boiler service. What's more, for Ramadan 2020, we're offering 15% off our policies with the code Ramadan15. Go to homecoverplan.co.uk now and join the many thousands already enjoying the benefits.
Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment. Suppliers of leading brands, Samsung, Sony, and Panasonic. We supply and fit all car audio systems, top brands, Kenwood, Bose, and we're an authorized supplier of Vibe product. Visit our store online at mubibase.co.uk and order today for next day delivery. Mubi Base Electronics are proud sponsors of Wolverhampton Wanderers FC. Call us today for a free quote on 01902 754 546 and quote Ramadan 20 for 10% off. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment.
Do you have a family member that's passed away and you would like someone to assist you in legal advice? Kenneth Jones Solicitors has been providing legal services for businesses and individuals since 1986. We specialise in probate, Islamic wills and family law. We also offer services in conveyancing, immigration and personal injury. Contact us today on 01902 745 773 or visit us on our website at kenneth-jones.co.uk.
KGJ Insurance have specialised in commercial insurance for over 20 years. They provide insurance to commercial property owners, food and drink, manufacturing, motor fleets and trade, offices, warehousing and retail trades. With over 70 staff, excellent service and fast response times. Find out how KGJ Insurance can help protect your business. Call 01902 796 796 or visit kgjgroup.co.uk. Khan Builders offer a full range of building services, from major rebuilds to small projects, home improvements, kitchen fitting, plastering, bathroom fitting, extensions and much more. We pride ourselves on providing a professional, caring and high quality service and always meet our customers' needs. Contact Khan Builders today on 07813 950 265 for a free quotation from Khan Builders.
I'm still suffering from an injury now, and that was last June.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's like it took me a long time to recover from the Ironman.
Yeah,
it mentally broke me.
Well, yeah, because I started training for 6 weeks, then got COVID, then got pleurisy, so that took me out for 6 weeks, and then I had a marathon to run. So I was basically running a marathon with no training, got injured. And then that just sort of snowballed. And then I'm amazed I completed all of them and 60 or nearly 60 miles of a 70-mile run as well.
So if you did 70 miles is good go, mate.
Well, I didn't complete. Like I said, I got to 58 and a half,
Okay.
and I was just in too much pain. I had to stop. But even I had the medics telling me you got to stop at 44, and I still sort of managed to.
Mate,
get
that's still going 58 miles a long time.
Half marathon out.
Yeah, so it's two marathons out. Right, okay, we've got 10 seconds, mate. 10 seconds.
When you need to send money abroad, AK Money can transfer funds quickly and securely to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, to anywhere in the world. Whether you're sending to family, for business, or for charity during this holy month of Ramadan, download the AK Money app and transfer from the palm of your hand. Whilst
So, welcome back to Ramadan Radio 87.8 FM. If you want to ask James and I any questions, you can WhatsApp us on 07440 420 432. So, just before the break, James and I were just literally speaking about his property journey, and I thought it'd be a good time just to get some of our listeners and introduce them to our world. When we say introduce them to our world, there is actually almost like a grey market of property. Would you agree? And the underground of property, where people talk about networking events, people talk about all these different strategies that you wouldn't really know about unless you're actually involved in. It's like you've ever seen the movie Fight Club? Rule number one, you don't talk about Fight Club. So tell us about your first property networking event.
Yeah, so my first networking event was in Stoke-on-Trent. So very many years ago, I moved from Exeter up to Stoke-on-Trent. People always question that move because normally you're going in the opposite direction. But it's a great place. It's full of great people, and it was a great move for me. And my first networking event was Stoke-on-Trent Property Investors Network meeting, and that was February 2018, I think it was. And yeah, it was a really daunting or I'd made it up to be a daunting experience, and it actually wasn't. It was a great meeting. The host was very welcoming. All of the other delegates there were very welcoming as well and very encouraging.
So for those that don't know, so there are networking events all over the country. So you can find them. There's Property Investors Network. There are also lots of others. You've got Progressive Property Network. You've got lots of independent property meets. And what these are is a meeting point for property investors to go along and share their journey, speak to other people in the industry. So sometimes in the room, you may get mortgage brokers like James. You find solicitors, you find accountants, tax advisors, and more importantly, just property professionals. And in there, you get to listen to other keynote speakers. So you get speakers come from all over the country. And then, James, who was the first person that you heard?
Wow, that's a good question. I can't remember now.
Couldn't have been that memorable then. If
It was more. I think I was so anxious about actually going to the event that I didn't. Oh, actually, I think it was Rick Gunnan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what then. What made you want to go to a networking event? And if someone's listening to this now and they're thinking, well, in actual fact, maybe I should get myself out there, what kind of tips would you give them?
I was investing at this point, and I had been doing for some time. And I sort of started looking into other strategies, and it was, like you say, it was quite overwhelming. I didn't really, even though I understood the build concept of things, these strategies were very foreign to me. So I started researching them, and I was getting advice off people that I knew that had built businesses and were successful. And one of them told me, he said, look, go to networking events. And I'd always avoided it like the plague. Absolutely. I just thought these are not places where somebody like me would be welcome. And like I said, that was an absolute sort of myth.
Do you still go to them today?
Yeah. I go to many networking events. I still go to Stoke-on-Trent PIN. I love Partners in Property. I'm going to their Birmingham meeting tomorrow. They've got a meeting in Manchester as well that I sort of attend regularly, and the London one. And I've been actually looking at one called Prosperity Network based in Warrington. I'm hearing a lot.
Danny Inman's.
Yes, yeah, we're hearing a lot of good stuff about that. So I'll probably jump onto that one as well. But I just think they're a great sort of source of information. You've got service providers, like you say, so mortgage brokers, solicitors, architects, builders, letting agents, estate agents, and they are quite happy to sort of share their sort of knowledge with you and give you information, or give you the information that you require. Plus, you've got the investors there, so you've got that side of it, and there's a very sort of diverse range of individuals there in terms of some may be large portfolio landlords and some may be starting out and don't have any properties at that moment in time.
Okay, that's interesting. So do you still attend them on the basis now of being a mortgage broker looking to get investors on board for when they're next purchasing their next property?
Yeah, to a certain degree, but I do like them as well. You learn a lot from them, and that's sort of when my knowledge really started to take off in terms of sort of strategies and just everything else associated with the property industry.
So when you started going to these events, that's a good point actually about your strategies and getting the knowledge, because someone's listening to this thinking, well, I want to get involved, but I don't know where to start. And we've already talked about networking events, but what kind of strategies have you done in your journey then?
Well, I predominantly sort of started off with flips. So a flip is, for those that don't know, you would acquire a rundown property in need of refurbishment. You would do it up, so you conduct your building works on it, and you would sell it on at a profit. But my sort of vision, I suppose, as an investor was to provide good quality housing at whatever level of the market that I was buying for, and I loved personally just to do projects on 3-bed semis. I thought it was a great property. It always sold well.
So you were buying these, refurbing them, and you only stuck with 3-bedroom semi-detached houses?
Yeah.
And you were, I'm assuming you were doing these up to a decent standard for a family to come and live in?
Yeah, well, a family, well, they were a good option for a first-time buyer, for somebody that was looking to upsize, downsize, families. So, or just a sort of cohabiting partnership, or a family with no children. I thought it was a great property that never sort of hung around on the market very long. We always made sure that we spent the money in the areas that was necessary, and we sort of learned over time that we could retain certain elements and aspects of the property to cut down our costs, leaving us free to spend a little bit more on, say, the kitchen and the bathroom than the real selling points of the property.
Fine. So would you say that, going into property, is that a good starter strategy?
Yeah.
And then I suppose, talking it now from your experience point of view, from the finance point of view, if you were to buy the property, obviously you need the 25% deposit, or, deposit depending on how much that person can get funding for. Yeah. Then with regards to the refurb, are there products out there in the market that can assist them with the refurb costs, or is it only the acquisition of the property?
Yeah, you can get development finance, but however, this all comes at a cost. So if you are doing sort of what would be classed as a heavy refurbishment, like I've already touched on, you would be put onto a bridging facility. If you are then putting development finance on top of that, it's all an added cost, and it all comes off that bottom line. So
it does, but if it also reduces the amount that you're putting in, and it allows someone to do more projects, it's a question of, do you do
numbers
more? Yeah, do you do more projects with a smaller margin, or do you do less projects with a larger margin? It all depends on what you want to do, and
that's individual specific, what their sort of risk appetite is. But if they were starting off, I would just say, look, just keep it simple. Get your 25% deposit up front. Get your build costs, and then look at it like that, in terms of you're minimising your expenditure, you're minimising your risk, and it should produce a profit.
Okay, so you enjoyed that part?
Yeah, it was great. But
what about dealing with builders and contractors?
Well, because I was a tradesman, I worked. I was quite fortunate, I suppose, because you do hear people having issues with builders quite often. But I would just get the individual trades in. I would project manage it myself, and they are trades that I would have worked with or come recommended by people I had worked with within the trade industry.
Okay, so if someone was listening to this though, and they're completely new, would you suggest going off and getting individual trades, or would you just suggest someone going and just finding someone that can do almost like a one-stop shop on the whole property?
Yeah, so you would contact a builder that would be able to facilitate all of the works. And again, it sort of brings me back to a networking event where generally your reputable builders will attend, and you'll be able to get referrals from people in there that have used a particular builder. So you're sort of minimising your risk in that area as well.
One of the questions I was just going to ask is, at networking events, you'll get other property investors that may not have the funds, but may have the skills and the ability to do so. This is where joint ventures come together. Now, from a finance point of view, how does that work? Because if there's you, the one with the money buying the property, and then they're doing the work, do they then become part of the project, or are they then part of that transaction, or how does it work?
Well, it all depends really on the sort of specific setup. Whereas if, let's say, for example, you've got a builder who doesn't have the funds and comes across an investor who does have the funds, then we have a situation where the investor may lend the builder a certain amount of capital so that he can acquire a dwelling, refurbish it, and then sell it on. Or you could have a situation where they enter into a JV or a joint venture ship. So that would be them partnering up. The investor would inject the funds into the project, and then the builder would sort of do obviously his part of the agreement and facilitate the building works.
No, that's another way that people can get involved in property. So, along this whole session today, we're actually talking about multiple different ways that people can get involved. So sometimes you may have the funds, but you may not have the know-how, and sometimes you may want to learn along the way. So why don't you utilise someone else's expertise first, see how it goes, and then potentially you could branch out by yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the person that you're going to be teaming up with would have made some money along the way. You'll made some money along the way, and you probably just de-risked it just by using someone else's expertise. And you never know, they could be a business partner for life.
Yeah, and that is how I facilitated my first project. I raised investor finance, and I know that sounds like a very technical term maybe to somebody that hasn't heard it before, but in reality, I contacted a friend in Devon. He was a mate, and I said, look, the property up here is fairly cheap. He was a developer, or is a developer down there. I said, you might want to come up and have a look. And so we started buying property at auction.
Okay. And did you find that buying at auction, I suppose this is a really good point, buying at auction, finance, how do we get around? Well, when I say how do we get around it, when you're buying at auction, obviously you've got a specific time frame to purchase the property. So what would you suggest on that?
Well, we were buying them cash, so a true cash purchase. So we weren't in need of any form of finance. But if you were to require it, that is obviously something we can arrange. And
so what kind of so are there specific products out there for mortgages, or is it predominantly predominantly bridging?
Yeah, but it's a short-term facility, so it's a form of bridging. It's auction finance, but you've got to be quick, because you will you will have to complete within the stipulated timeframes from the auction house.
Yeah, so when you purchase a property from auction, when you're bidding, and on the day if that gambit has gone down, you may have to put. Well, you will have to put 10% deposit.
Deposit down.
You'll have to put 10% deposit down, which means that you have then just exchanged contracts. As a result of that, means that you're now legally committed to purchase a property.
Yes, and then we can arrange a facility for you to so you can acquire the property. So the shortfall of funds.
I should say, and I always say this, is that don't leave it until the day of the auction to arrange your finance.
No,
Yeah. So if you're
Yeah.
interested in a property,
Yeah. So,
engage a mortgage broker,
absolutely.
and so that you can see, and then they can tell you roughly how much you can afford to bid up to.
Yeah, well, So again, investor needs to know their numbers. They shouldn't be targeting something, as you rightly say, that they're not going to be able to gain the full funds for. We would need information up front from them so that we can hit the ground running. So we're not there's not a barrage of calls back and forth. We need this, we need that. So we'd have it up front. And then we can sort of hit the ground running at the point of offer being accepted.
Yeah. So just to recap, do not go to an auction and start bidding on something without having the funding in place, because you might find that you've overspent. You might find that you might not be able to get funding, and then ultimately, as you've put down 10%, people do it all the time. And we see it all the time that people bought or bidding on a property because they got carried away. Probably overspent on the property, and now they may not have the required funds, and they're now having to scramble around friends, family to pull together the additional funds.
Yeah, I mean, we do still have people that we have a very panicked phone call informing us that they just bought something at auction, and then of course we will help them where we can and do what we can. But it's an important point as well that you just raised. About not overbidding. You should be very clear on what your maximum bid is prior going to the auction, and do not exceed that maximum bid.
I'll be honest, I've been in a couple of scenarios where I got carried away. It's only extra £500. No, it's okay. It's only extra £500, and then that extra £500, and then someone else over there puts another £500 in. And okay, it's £1,000. Okay, another £500, and then a property that we were looking at where we were meant to stop at 80 to 85,000, we actually ended up spending at 115. But I kind of knew in the back of my mind that we knew that the product that we were going to create, the income it was going to generate, and I knew I could get the finance based on that. So, but that was with many years of experience. Don't do it if you're completely new. And unfortunately, programs like Homes of the Hammer and other programs like this, they make it seem too easy. Would you agree?
Yeah, they do. It's certainly not as easy as it may be portrayed on programs like that. There's a lot of work that goes into it in the background, just stacking the deal, or sort of working out your numbers.
Do you reckon if they actually filmed the whole process of the investor getting the finance, the investor dealing with the solicitors?
I don't think anyone would do it. Nobody would be mad enough to.
Oh, no, property is good. There are short-term, I was speaking to an investor today. She is buying 4 properties up in Blackpool, and she's had all the valuations done and everything, and then all of a sudden the mortgage broker has just decided that, or not the mortgage broker, the mortgage lender has pulled all the products.
Yeah, it can happen, unfortunately. But again, where sort of Prospero are placed within the market, we are strategic partners with all the major lenders, and we do at times have to leverage those relationships to sort of overcome potential disasters. And we can't do it every time, of course, but we can do it on occasions.
No, and it's good, and that's why having people like yourself on the radio show, James, is a great asset to the station. And the reason why I say that is because the people listening here have already now got access to a property professional that has got access to a wealth of lenders in the industry. And then off the back of that, they now no longer have to go around trying to find it. And then with your other contacts that you may be able to place from the years of networking that you've been going through, it just opens up a number of doors instantly. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and I regularly sort of refer people to other professionals. So we work very closely with conveyancing firms, estate agents, letting agents, builders. So there's in most situations we could provide a referral, or just sort of some advice or point you in the right direction.
Yeah, no, and that's good. So I suppose we've got a few minutes left, James. So I don't mind you obviously mentioning. Have you got a? How do people get in contact with your company, or what's the best way? Have you got social media handles, or have you got a website that you want them to come and have a chat? If someone wants to, do you recommend that people actually book almost like a mini consultation with you, just to say, well, I'm looking to buy this, and then you can kind of get a fact find on who these people are, and then you can go through a process. And just tell us what that entails.
So I mean, we like I said, we are. I'm based in Cheshire, but the head office is in Swindon. If they'd like to contact us, they can do via telephone. The telephone number for the head office is 01793 97770, or they can contact me directly via email at jrogers, which is JROGERS @Prospero Finance. That's PROSPERO finance.co.uk.
Brilliant. So that's and if they want to go to a website, I'm assuming it's prosperofinance.co.uk.
Yeah,
and then by all means, go and utilise James's experience. It's completely free for you to have a conversation with him, just to see, are you eligible to get funding, or what's the best way of getting the funding in place? And then, it's pretty much like a mini call, just to understand, is James going to be the right person to work with you? Are you going to be the right person to work with James?
Yeah, we can do a fact find call. That's no problem at all, and I can.
And the reason why I say that, and I always suggest doing this as quickly as you can, even if you're thinking about investing, is that the more information James has on file for you will save a lot of time when you've actually come to buy a property, because James will already have that info and he'll be able to place you with a lender very quickly. Would you agree, James?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do request it's sort of all the required information up front, because as you say, then we can hit the ground running. We're not wasting time sort of asking for ID and whatnot, and it just makes the process a lot smoother. So we request the information up front, then investor can make touch base with us and say, right, I've had an offer accepted. We would send them out just a very simple form so they can fill out the details of the situation and their project, and then the rest is down to us.
Fantastic. We're just about to wrap up, James. We've got just over a minute left. So, quick fire tips. Anyone listening to this, investing. So, let me ask you some questions, almost like yes or no. Would you do it all again?
Yes.
Okay. What would you do differently?
I'd have educated myself, got to networking events quicker. I would have consumed as much information sort of online as possible, and I'd have been very clear about a single strategy.
So, okay. So, would you do buy-to-let or HMO?
I personally like buy-to-lets.
Okay, fine. And then are you investing in cash flow or capital growth?
You don't really get a great deal of capital growth around here, but it's sort of much of a muchness. The purchase price is cheap, so you do benefit a little bit from capital appreciation and cash flow as well. So I've got a bit of both. Fantastic.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming online. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I'm hoping that all the listeners that are listening have enjoyed taking in some of the knowledge. Again, if you want to get in touch with James, you can email him jrogers@prosperofinance.co.uk, or you can go to website prosperofinance.co.uk. James, on that note, I want to say thank you for your time. Is there anything that you want to quickly say to listeners?
I hope I've provided them with value at whatever level they may be. And yeah, don't.
When you need to send money abroad, AK Money can transfer funds quickly and securely to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, to anywhere in the world. Whether you're sending to family, for business, or for charity during this holy month of Ramadan, download the AK Money app and transfer from the palm of your hand whilst enjoying competitive rates, zero fees, and an outstanding service. To chat with our support team in English, Urdu, or Punjabi, call 02031 502253 or click on akmoney.co.uk.
Visit the new AK Windows head office showroom. It's where you can view their quality and affordable double-glazed windows, doors, roof lanterns and composite and bifolding doors in all colours, finishes and styles. Also for door lock and glass repairs too. For both trade and DIY, AK Windows have over 30 years experience in manufacturing and installing. So to arrange your free quotation, call 01902 421 500, click on akwindows.co.uk or visit at Eric Economic House, Salisbury Street, Wolverhampton, WV3 0BG.
The death of a loved one is a very emotional and challenging time for the family members of the deceased. Al Mu'min Funeral Services have been supporting families across the UK since 2005. Their professional, experienced and quality service ensures the whole process from release from hospital to burial is taken care of respectfully and efficiently. They also specialise in worldwide repatriations, assisting to take loved ones to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Iraq or anywhere worldwide. almu'minfunerals.co.uk, your trusted funeral service.
Eurofit Auto Centres, the West Midlands leading independent auto centre, celebrating 18 years of service. All services, MOT and repairs, with a free collection and drop-off service within Wolverhampton. Book online today at eurofitautocentres.co.uk or call us on 01902 40 40 45 and we'll direct you to your nearest branch. The experts making vehicle repairs simple. Is your home protected from the unexpected? It can be with Home Cover Plan, Wolverhampton's fastest growing home emergency cover from as little as $14.50 a month. That's right, for just $14.50 a month, Home Cover Plan will protect your boiler, radiators, electrics, plumbing and any other home emergencies with no catches, no call-out charges and no excess charges plus a boiler service. What's more, for Ramadan 2020, we're offering 15% off our policies with the code Ramadan15. Go to homecoverplan.co.uk now and join the many thousands already enjoying the benefits.
Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment. Suppliers of leading brands, Samsung, Sony, and Panasonic. We supply and fit all car audio systems, top brands, Kenwood, Bose, and we're an authorized supplier of Vibe product. Visit our store online at mubibase.co.uk and order today for next day delivery. Mubi Base Electronics are proud sponsors of Wolverhampton Wanderers FC. Call us today for a free quote on 01902 754 546 and quote Ramadan 20 for 10% off. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment.
Do you have a family member that's passed away and you would like someone to assist you in legal advice? Kenneth Jones Solicitors has been providing legal services for businesses and